is just fantastic. Captain's Log, subdates 21103.2. With the recent discussion being that of cults, I have sought guidance from the Moistonian pastor, Gabe Oy. He reckons the devout will need assurances that Moistianity will elevate them in the next emanation. We shall proceed with caution and place it behind a paywall. Right, yes. Okay, right. So today we're going to be talking about a cult, which can also be considered a pyramid scheme. I'm sure many of you saw the recent video by Count Dankula on another cult. Well, this one's a bit more modern, and, well, yes. This one's quite interesting. It's called Nxivm, which can sound like a model number for one of the Star Trek ships. But it isn't. I had thought it was an acronym. I can't find anything that would indicate it is. But it is pronounced Nxivm, which to me is quite interesting because I had thought it was a rather, well, dumb way of writing Nxivm. But sure, let's just call it Nxivm. There is actually a group within it, a sororitas of sorts, called DOS, Dominus Obsequious Sororium. We'll get to those later. Small consolation, I guess. With today's video, I want to talk about the rise and fall of Nxivm and the fallout. Now, I had only heard of it because of an actress from Smallville called Alison Mack. She wasn't my favourite. I think we can all agree Michael Rosenbaum is the best thing to come out of that show. I can't even remember the actor who played Clark Kent. But Michael Rosenbaum, yes, his podcast is amazing. I'll link it down below. Because I want to stay on track, perhaps it's right we discuss what Nxivm is. It describes itself as a multi-level marketing company that was based in Albany, New York. It claims to offer personal and professional development seminars through programs like Executive Success. As early as 2002, it has been described by many as a cult. Nxivm was founded by Keith Raniere, who prior to founding Nxivm had a company called Consumers Byline, which was a venture that the New York Attorney General himself accused Raniere of it being nothing more than a pyramid scheme. And in 1996 he signed a consent order which denied any wrongdoing, but simultaneously agreed to pay a $40,000 fine and be permanently banned from promoting, offering, or granting participation in a chain distribution scheme. But he's not guilty, yo. Not even slightly. In 1998, Raniere and Nancy Salzman founded Nxivm. Raniere had claimed that the program's main emphasis was to have people experience more joy in their lives. During the seminars, students were expected to call Raniere and Salzman Vanguard and Prefect. The title Vanguard came from Raniere's favourite arcade game. Try and guess the game. I'll give you a clue. The point of the game is to destroy one's enemy to increase your own power. Shouldn't take anyone too long. The organisation had claimed that one of the major reasons that the titles existed was because Raniere was the leader of a philosophical movement, and Salzman was his first student. You could have gone with the Sith, but oh well. After 5 years, over 3,500 people had taken part in the Executive Success Programs, or ESP, which included businesswomen, surgeon generals, Enron executives, daughters of former presidents, included, allegedly, Richard Branson, who has gone on to deny he had anything to do with it. The training that goes within Nxivm, though, is a trade secret, because all that join sign NDAs, which stands for non-disclosure agreements. But it had been reported there was a technique called rational inquiry to facilitate personal and professional development. In 2003, Nxivm sued Ross, or the Ross Institute, alleging copyright infringement because they had published excerpts of content from its manual in 3 critical articles commissioned by cult investigator Rick Alan Ross, which he then went on to post onto his website. Ross posted things like the psychiatrist's assessment of the secret manual on his website that called the regime expensive brainwashing. However, both cases were dismissed because fair use, yo. In 2006, Nxivm got involved with Kristin Krug, who in turn introduced them to Alison Mack. Now, Alison Mack bonded really well, and Krug did at that time bond quite well as well, but she did go on to leave in 2013, and she was never featured in any of the trial cases because she just wasn't involved, something confirmed by almost everyone. Alison Mack, though, worked her way up to be second in command, so she was popular, yo. This is proven because, well, she was in court and is going to be sentenced soon, but also because she was considered an enthusiastic proselytizer, persuading her parents to take courses. She moved to Clifton Park, New York, near the home base in Albany. Nxivm also threw their weight behind a political candidate in 2007 in the form of Hillary Clinton, with dozens donating $2,500, well, the maximum being $2,300. But somewhat contradictory, Nxivm also gave over $30,000 to the state Republican Senate Campaign Committee, along with paying for the transportation costs, totaling, including the donations, $66,000. Edgar Bronfman had spoken out about Nxivm early on, but his two daughters were involved. They took out loans to help fund Nxivm in exchange for seminars, one-on-one sessions. Well, they also decided to pressure Stephen Herbitz, who was a confidant of their father, to ask the Albany County District Attorney David Soares, the New York Governor Eliot Spitzer, and the New Jersey Attorney General Ann Milgram to open criminal investigations into Nxivm's critics. Nxivm had so much influence, even with all the negative press they were getting. They eventually managed to get the 14th Dalai Lama to speak at the Palace Theatre in Albany in 2009. Although it is worth noting the self-styled personal emissary for peace for the Dalai Lama in 2017, who was meant to make an appearance, got suspended on corruption charges. When people think of Nxivm, they think of three things: a pyramid scheme, a cult, and a sex trafficking operation. This can be traced back, the accusations of those three, as far back as 2010, where a Times Union article written by former Nxivm coaches characterized students as prey for Keith Ranier's sexual or gambling-related proclivities. Longtime partner of Keith Raniere, Kristen Keefe, left in 2014, calling her husband, ex, dangerous, and that all the worst things you know about Nxivm are true. To combat some of the bad press, Keith decided to found the Nxivm-affiliated news organization, The Knife of Aristotle, but it was described as fake news, so it didn't go very far. The organization, by the way, hired journalists in an attempt to gain media support and solicit new members to Nxivm, but also fabricated staff members. There's a word for this. I can't imagine what it is. So I guess now we should get to what it is that happened that led to the downfall of Nxivm. In June 2017, Frank Parlato released a report on DOS. Earlier I called it Dominus Obsequia Sororium, which is a secret sisterhood within Nxivm. The original allegation was that members were called slaves, branded with the initials of Raniere and Mack, subjected to corporal punishment from their masters, along with providing collateral to ensure they didn't break any of the rules. An early allegation was also that DOS members were forced into sexual slavery. This was corroborated by Sarah Edmondson, who had been an ESP participant since 2005. She left Nxivm after Mack inducted her into DOS, where she explained that participants were blindfolded naked and held down by Mack and other women, branded by the Nxivm-affiliated Dr. Danielle Roberts using a cauterizing pen. She explained this in great depth in a bunch of news magazines like 2020 and on a few documentaries on Nxivm, including the CBC podcast Uncover, with the episode being called Escaping Nxivm. In March 2018, Keith Raniere was arrested and indicted on charges related to DOS, which included sex trafficking conspiracy, and conspiracy to commit forced labour. On April 2018, Alison Mack was arrested and indicted on similar charges, along with her coercing people to engage in sexual activity with Raniere and performing menial tasks for which Ranier allegedly paid her. If either are convicted, by the way, they would get between 15 and, life in prison. On May the 4th, Ranier pleaded not guilty. In April 2018, it was reported that the Nxivm main base had moved to Brooklyn, New York, and was now led by Claire Bronfman. But Nxivm had gone on since to suspend its operations due to extraordinary circumstances facing the company, with Claire Bronfman being arrested on July 24th and charged with racketeering. She was then released to house arrest after signing a $100 million bail bond. Also arrested and charged with the same crimes, the Nxivm president Nancy Saltzman, her daughter Lauren Saltzman, and Kathy Russell, who was a Nxivm employee. In March of 2019, Nancy Saltzman pleaded guilty to the charge of racketeering conspiracy. Lauren Saltzman pleaded guilty to racketeering and racketeering conspiracy. Mack pleaded guilty to racketeering, and Bronfman pleaded guilty to charges of harboring an alien and identity fraud, with the other employee, a bookkeeper, Kathy Russell, pleading guilty to visa fraud. Well, at least they were honest eventually, right? This is a messy one, isn't it? Before we get to some of the sentences, because we have some, I just want to quickly go through some of the beliefs and, practices. Much like in martial arts, they displayed their ranks with coloured sashes. There was a 12-point mission statement which participants had to recite during classes, pledging to purge themselves of all parasite and envy-based habits, along with enroll others to ethically control as much of the money, wealth and resources of the world as possible within my success plan. These classes, by the way, weren't cheap. For 12 hours daily for 16-day classes. So yes, that was quite a short course, but the long days, though, would cost $7,500. Classes then divided into modules. One module was called Relationship Sourcing, where students were instructed to explore the benefits they would receive in the event of a partner's sudden death. Another one, because they're romantics here, was called Dracula and His Ghouls, which discussed psychopaths. Okay, I'm already done explaining some of this nonsense, and I've barely scratched the surface. But don't worry, I'm going to link everything down below. You're going to love it. Have a field day with it. This stuff is nuts. To the sentences. Claire Bronfman was sentenced to 6 years and 9 months in federal prison. Her attorney has pledged to appeal this because they consider the sentence an abomination. Keith Ranier, who was found guilty after 5 hours of deliberation, was found guilty of sexual exploitation of a child and possession of child pornography, sex trafficking and attempted sex trafficking, identity theft against Edgar Bronfman, James Luperfido, Ashana Chenoa, and Pam Kafritz, trafficking for labour and services and forced labour, conspiracy to alter records for use in an official proceeding, sex trafficking conspiracy, forced labour conspiracy, racketeering conspiracy, and wire fraud conspiracy. Sentenced to 120 years in prison. Alison Mack has yet to be sentenced. I will do a Halls of Injustice explicitly on Alison Mack, because she's thrown it all away really, hasn't she? But so did her wife, although she wasn't charged with anything related to Nxivm, but it's going to be a very lonely life for Nikki Klein. You did give up your role in Battlestar Galactica though, didn't you? Oof. Hope it was worth it. You cults are all the same to me. You seek to control people, and in turn all you actually do is control the simple, the desperate, the lonely. You're an embarrassment. People should be free to choose whatever they want, yes. But others should not seek to control people. It is tyranny.